I'm Nurin Razman, and this is Nightline, the top stories. Cambodia and Thailand to resume ceasefire talks on December 24th. And Najib Razak loses bid to serve rest of jail term under house arrest. Good morning. Cambodia and Thailand are set to return to the meeting table as ASEAN steps up efforts to restore calm along the shared border between the two countries. The Cambodia-Thailand General Border Committee, or GBC, is scheduled to meet this Wednesday to discuss the conditions and verification of a ceasefire following renewed clashes earlier this month. The development was announced during a special ASEAN foreign ministers meeting in Kuala Lumpur, conveyed to address the latest situation between the two neighbors. Foreign Minister Datuk Seri Muhammad Hassan, who chaired the meeting, said ASEAN foreign ministers welcomed the discussions aimed at resuming the ceasefire and halting further hostilities.
The ASEAN foreign ministers welcome the discussion on resumption of the ceasefire and cessation of hostilities. The GBC will convene on 24th December 2025 to discuss the implementation and verification of the ceasefire.
He added that the meeting also took note of international and regional diplomatic efforts, including leadership-level engagement by Prime Minister Datuk Seri Anwar Ibrahim, as well as United States President Donald Trump, in promoting a peaceful outcome.
The meeting appreciated the proactive role and continued engagement by Prime Minister Anwar Ibrahim and President Donald J. Trump, with active participation of ASEAN member states and China in promoting a peaceful solution on the ongoing situation.
Muhammad said the willingness of Cambodian Prime Minister Hun Manet and Thai Prime Minister Anutin Chanvirakul to continue engaging with the ASEAN chair is a positive step towards easing tensions and preventing misunderstandings. Monday's meeting reaffirmed ASEAN's commitment towards unity and solidarity and to the principle of ASEAN First in safeguarding regional peace, security and stability in line with its charter. The meeting on Monday also urged both governments to ensure that civilians affected by the conflict were able to return to their homes without obstruction and to resume their lives in safety and dignity. ASEAN foreign ministers also voiced concern over the continued tensions and hostilities which have resulted in significant casualties, damage to civilian infrastructure, and displacement of civilians on both sides of the border. According to the foreign minister, the regional bloc called on Cambodia and Thailand to ensure the safety of civilians throughout the period of heightened tensions.
The meeting reaffirmed the commitment of ASEAN unity and solidarity, as well as ASEAN centrality in ensuring regional peace, security, stability, and prosperity in accordance with the ASEAN Charter.
Muhammad said both countries were also urged to rebuild mutual trust and return to dialogue. He added that this should include bilateral mechanisms and engagement through the ASEAN chair to work towards a peaceful and lasting resolution. Meanwhile, Thailand has welcomed the resumption of ceasefire discussions with Cambodia scheduled for Wednesday. Speaking after the ASEAN special meeting, Thai Foreign Minister Sihasak Phuantketkeow said the talks would be conducted under the framework of the Joint Border Committee.
If you really want a ceasefire, and this is the point I made and the meeting agreed that a ceasefire cannot come by way of a declaration. You declare ceasefire tonight. Will that ceasefire be respected? Right. So you need time to discuss the details of the ceasefire.
Sihasak added that the discussion would be held in Chanthaburi province, Thailand, which borders Cambodia in the west. Meanwhile, fresh fighting has erupted along the Thailand-Cambodia border shortly after both sides agreed to hold talks this week. Cambodia's defense ministry said the Thai military deployed fighter jets to bomb areas in Siem Reap and Preah Vihear provinces. The ministry also accused Bangkok of using F-16 jets to drop 4 bombs in Bante Minchi province and of firing what it called toxic gas near Prachan village. Thailand's army, however, said Cambodia fired dozens of rockets into Thai territory on Monday, prompting airstrikes on 2 Cambodian military targets. The renewed clashes have shattered a previous truce, killing at least 43 people and displacing nearly 1 million on both sides of the border. Yang di-Pertuan Agong Sultan Ibrahim arrived safely in the United Arab Emirates on Monday, marking a start of a special visit to the country until December 24th. The royal aircraft carrying Sultan Ibrahim landed at Zayed International Airport in Abu Dhabi at 11:45 a.m. local time or 3:45 p.m. Malaysian time. His Majesty was welcomed on arrival by the Minister of State at the UAE Foreign Affairs Ministry, Said Mubarak Al-Hajiri. Also present was Malaysia's ambassador to the UAE, Tengku Datuk Sirajus Zaman Tengku Muhammad Arifin. The visit marks the King's first official trip to the UAE, undertaken at the invitation of the UAE President Sheikh Mohammed bin Zayed Al Nahyan.
Melihat kembali kanvas penuh warna dan helaian fakta.
Menurut peristiwa, kisah dan detik yang membentuk arah negara dan dunia.
Imbasan 2025, retrospektif wajah masa depan.
Ahad 28 Disember, 5.32 petang, hanya di TV3 dan stream HD ditonton.
Former Prime Minister Datuk Seri Muhammad Najib Tun Razak will remain incarcerated at the Kajang prison after the Kuala Lumpur High Court dismissed his judicial review application linked to the SRC International case. High Court Judge Alice Loke rejected Najib's request to enforce an alleged addendum order that would have allowed him to serve the remainder of his prison sentence under house arrest. The Kuala Lumpur court complex had been abuzz with Najib's supporters since early morning, alongside his wife Datin Seri Rosma Mansor and other family members. Najib arrived at the court complex at about 8:40 a.m. and proceedings began at 9:30 a.m. The 72-year-old was seated in the front row of the public gallery, flanked by immediate family members as the ruling was read out. In her judgment, Loke outlined several reasons why the purported addendum order was deemed invalid and unenforceable under Malaysian law for the purpose of house arrest. Consequently, the court dismissed Najib's application for a mandamus order that would have compelled the government to implement the alleged directive and transfer him to his residence to serve the remainder of his sentence. With the ruling, Najib will continue serving his prison term at Kajang Prison, where he is expected to remain until August 2028. Meanwhile, Najib is moving swiftly to challenge the High Court's decision, with his legal team confirming that an appeal will be filed as soon as possible.
Yeah, we have asked for an early judgment to be formalized, the written judgment, and the Record of Appeal to be quickly prepared so that we move it to the Court of Appeal, and of course after that move it to the Federal Court, which I think will be necessary.
Meanwhile, Najib is set to face another critical legal challenge this Friday as the Kuala Lumpur High Court delivers its decision on the 1MDB trial. High Court Judge Datuk Colin Lawrence Sequenra will rule on whether the 72-year-old is convicted or acquitted of 4 charges of abusing his position to obtain 2.3 billion ringgit in 1MDB funds, as well as 21 counts of money laundering. The decision comes after both the defense and prosecution concluded their final submissions on November 4th, bringing the high-profile case to a decisive stage. In the meantime, the Malaysian Anti-Corruption Commission is in the process of bringing home high-value assets linked to the recovery of funds associated with One Malaysia Development Berhad or 1MDB. The MACC is currently assessing the logistical requirements and costs involving in repatriating the assets. It is estimated that 12 paintings belonging to former 1MDB lawyer Jasmine Liu are currently being held by U.S. auction houses Christie's and Sotheby's. Sources say items held under the custody of Sotheby's are already in the process of being shipped back to Malaysia. However, assets under Christie's can only be released following a court order issued in the United States. The cost of repatriating the items is expected to be substantial, as it involves specialized storage facilities, regular inspections, conservation treatment, and ongoing maintenance, in addition to close coordination with foreign law enforcement agencies. The return of the items was agreed upon as part of broader 1MDB asset recovery efforts, following discussions between the MACC, the Federal Bureau of Investigation, and the U.S. Department of Justice. Those meetings took place in Washington and New York on December 9th and 11th. Meanwhile, MACC Senior Director of the Special Operations Division, Datuk Muhammad Zamri Zainul Abidin, said investigations and asset tracing efforts are still ongoing. The probe covers various categories of assets, including real estate, financial assets, and other high-value items across multiple jurisdictions. The Inland Revenue Board, or LHDN, has received more than 820.5 million e-invoices since the phase implementation began on August 1st last year up to December 22nd this year. This reflects a high level of acceptance among micro, small and medium enterprises ahead of full implementation next year. According to LHDN Chief Executive Officer Dato' Abu Tariq Jamaluddin, the compliance rate for Phase 1 to Phase 3 of the e-invoicing rollout has now reached nearly 90%.
Hampir 800 juta invoice daripada 111,000 lebih pembayar cukai. So pada umumnya kita tahu e-invoice ini pelaksanaannya dari segi pematuhan fasa 1, 2 dan 3 adalah amat baik.
He said this during a media briefing held in conjunction with an engagement session with trade associations in Cyberjaya on Monday. To help taxpayers adapt, a 6-month grace period will be given from January 1st. During this time, taxpayers will be permitted to submit monthly consolidated e-invoices without facing enforcement action. Malaysia's inflation rate rose slightly to 1.4% in November, with the Consumer Price Index, CPI, standing at 135.1. This compared with 133 in the same month last year. Latest data from the Department of Statistics Malaysia, DOSM, showed the November increase was driven by higher prices in several selected groups. These include education, alcoholic beverages and tobacco, as well as transport, which recorded higher inflation compared with the previous month. Several other categories saw slower price increases. They include personal care, housing, water, electricity, gas and other fuels, as well as furnishings, household equipment and routine household maintenance. DOSM also reported that 61% of items in the CPI basket recorded price increases. However, almost all of these rose at a controlled rate of 10% or below. Overall, inflation trends in November indicate that price pressures remain contained, with increases largely concentrated in specific groups. Nimwi cleared of drug use, still faces separate possession charge. This and more after this breather.
Aiman malu, Pak. Aiman malu dengan tim Aiman.
Saya tak tahu sistem tu dapat dari mana. Awak sendiri tahu batas antara kebolehan dan keangkuhan.
Prof bagi peluang kedua untuk grup kita sebagai penilaian markah. Hari tu saya nampak Dewi dengan Prof Razif. Tapi cara diorang tu tak macam student dengan pensyarah pun. Saya minta maaf Aiman. Saya rasa saya tak cukup baik untuk jaga data awak.
I Crush You, Jumaat dan Sabtu 9 malam. Di Lestari TV3 dan stream sekarang melalui Tonton.
Rasa keping je.
Mesti shopping pun boleh. Siap ada diskaun lagi.
KPDN perketat pemantauan tanda harga.
Tu ada susun-susun barang kan tadi letak buang tadi.
Tak ada, itu alasannya. Tak boleh. Setiap you meniaga, mesti letak tu tanda harga.
Penggunaan bahasa asing mengelirukan pengguna.
Ular, dia jual ular ke? Itu apa tu? Halia, bawa halia apa?
Terpadam tu, dia terpadam tu.
Jangan dua ular, bos.
Saksikan 999 Selasa jam 9 malam di TV3 dan stream sekarang. Lari tonton.
Welcome back. An explosion occurred in the parking lot of a commercial area in Nilai Negeri Sembilan at about 6 a.m. on Monday, prompting a major police operation that led to the discovery of more explosives. Preliminary investigation suggests that a suspect may have accidentally detonated the bomb in a parking lot before fleeing, as bloodstains were found at the scene. Negeri Sembilan Police Chief Dato' Alzafni Ahmad said initial findings point to the use of a suspected improvised explosive device, or IED. At the scene, investigators found numerous nails scattered across the road, raising concerns that the device may have been designed to cause wider damage. Several vehicles nearby were damaged by debris from the explosion. Police also seized various tools and materials believed to be connected to the blast as forensic teams continue to comb the area. Further checks in the vicinity led police to a nearby house where 3 additional objects believed to be homemade explosives were discovered. Efforts are now underway to track down those responsible. The case is being investigated under Section 4 of the Explosives Act as well as Section 435 of the Penal Code, which relates to mischief by fire or explosive substances. An accident in Setapa involving an ambulance, 2 cars and 4 motorcycles has left 1 victim seriously injured. The incident occurred when the ambulance collided with a car before skidding and plowing into several motorcycles. Kuala Lumpur Traffic Investigation and Enforcement Department Chief Assistant Commissioner Muhammad Zamzuri Muhammad Isa said the accident happened at about 8:10 a.m. on Monday along Jalan Usahawan 6. Videos of the crash have since circulated widely on social media. Preliminary investigations found that the ambulance traveling from Jalan Kilang with its emergency lights and siren activated ran a red light as it entered the intersection. It then collided with a car from Wangsa Maju that was heading straight. The impact caused the ambulance to lose control and crash into several vehicles that were stationary at the traffic lights. Zamzuri said there was no one at the back of the ambulance at the time as the vehicle was on its way to pick up a patient in Gombak Setia. He added that although emergency vehicles have sirens and warning lights activated, the drivers of such vehicles are still required to slow down when approaching and entering signalized intersections. The case is being investigated under Section 43 of the Road Transport Act for careless and reckless driving. Now in Kedah, a man was charged at the Sungai Petani Magistrates Court with the murder of his grandmother and causing injuries to his great-grandmother in an incident in Baling last week. The accused 21-year-old Muhammad Farhan Zulkefli did not enter a plea after the charges were read to him. He is accused of murdering Halima Hashim, aged 65, at a house in Kampung Baru Bakai last Tuesday. The charge was framed under the Penal Code. The accused is also charged with hacking 80-year-old Mariam Arifin with a machete at the same location under the Penal Code for attempted murder. He is currently receiving psychiatric treatment at Bukit Mertajam Hospital in Pulau Pinang. The court then allowed the psychiatric report to be submitted on January 6 next year. The investigations found the grandmother with stab wounds on the back of her body, while the great-grandmother suffered hacking injuries to the back of her neck. Controversial rapper named Wee, whose real name is Wee Meng Chi, has been acquitted by the Kuala Lumpur Magistrates Court in his case of drug use. The decision followed confirmation from Deputy Public Prosecutor Amritpreet Kaur Ranhawa that the rapper's urine test results came back negative. As a result, the prosecution withdrew the charge against Namewee. Magistrate S. Arunjoti subsequently discharged and acquitted the accused and ordered the return of his 2,000 ringgit bail. Previously, Namewee had pleaded not guilty to 2 drug-related charges. He, however, still faces a separate charge of possessing ecstasy weighing 5.1 to 2 grams, allegedly found in a hotel room along Jalan Conley on October 22nd. Vehicle explodes in Moscow just hours after U.S. talks. The details when Nightline returns.
Drama fenomena dituntun kini ditayangkan di TV3. Pelariannya bukan kerana benci.
Ju bersumpah, Ju takkan balik lagi rumah ni.
Tapi untuk merasa dicintai.
Rambus, you should wear this.
Why?
Because you're a Muslim.
Salju Rindu di Bumi Auckland, Isnin hingga Khamis 10 malam di Samarinda TV3 dan stream sekarang melalui Tonton.
Terbaru di Tonton.
Jangan cabar kerja aku.
Aduh, akulah balik.
Buat apa kau nak menyusahkan diri kau untuk dia?
Awak pernah dengar nama Zakwan tak?
Awak sumpah, saya tak beritahu sesiapa pun.
Sapora tu, dia pengamal ilmu hitam.
Jangan cabar kerja aku. Aku tak akan duduk diam. Aku akan tuntut hak aku kembali.
Melihat kembali kanvas penuh warna dan helaian fakta.
Menurut peristiwa, kisah dan detik yang membentuk arah negara dan dunia.
Imbasan 2025, retrospektif wajah masa depan.
Ahad 28 Disember 5.32 petang hanya di TV3 dan stream HD ditonton.
On to the foreign front. U.S. and Ukrainian envoys said productive and constructive talks have taken place in Miami, but there is still no major breakthrough in efforts to end Ukraine's war with Russia. U.S. President Donald Trump's special envoy, Steve Witkoff, issued a joint statement with Ukraine's chief negotiator, Rustem Umerov, after 3 days of meetings with European allies. They said discussions focus on aligning positions on a 20-point plan, a multilateral security guarantee framework, a separate U.S. security guarantee for Ukraine, and a broader economic and prosperity plan. Meanwhile, separate talks were also held in Miami between U.S. officials. Meanwhile, a Russian general was killed on Monday morning after an explosive device detonated under his car in southern Moscow. The blast came just hours after Russian and Ukrainian delegates held separate talks in Miami on a plan to end the war. Authorities said the incident occurred at around 7 a.m. local time when a white vehicle exploded in a car park in Yasenevaya Street with the victim inside. Lieutenant General Fanil Saravov, 56, was later pronounced dead in hospital as a result of his injuries. Images from the scene showed a severely damaged white car with its doors blown off, surrounded by other vehicles. Kyiv has not commented on the incident, but Russian investigators said they are probing whether the blast was linked to Ukrainian special forces. on to sports. FIFA is set to summon suspended Football Association of Malaysia, or FAM, Secretary General Datuk Noor Azman Rahman as part of its investigation into alleged falsification of documents involving 7 naturalized players. FAM Acting President Datuk Yusof Mahadi has confirmed the matter, saying the probe aims to determine Noor Azman's role and the extent of his involvement in the alleged forgery.
Alasan dia nak tahu ni lah peranan Datuk Azman, nak tahu apa flow tu, apa proses tu, dia nak tahu lah sejauh mana penglibatan, macam mana dokumen tu dihantar apa semua. Dia FIFA lebih nak tahu proses dekat Datuk Azman tu, apa sebagai setiausaha, apa dia punya tanggungjawab dan apa yang dilakukan tu FIFA nak tahu secara detail lah.
Yusof said Noor Azman will be referred to FAM's disciplinary committee to determine his position, with any potential action to be decided by the executive committee. In October, Noor Azman was suspended with immediate effect following a FIFA investigation into the status of 7 Harimau Malaya heritage players. In another development, Yusof said FAM is set to lodge a police report in a bid to get to the root of the issue behind the falsification of documents involving 7 naturalized national players.
Kita akan report bahawa ada berlaku pemalsuan dokumen terhadap yang dihantar kepada FIFA. Kita nak polis menyiasat macam mana pemalsuan dokumen ni boleh berlaku lah, atau siapa yang bertanggungjawab untuk melakukan pemalsuan dokumen ni.
Yusof said the national body is doing so based on the recommendation of the Independent Investigation Committee, or IIC, chaired by former Chief Justice Tun Mat Raus Sharif. He added that FAM will also heed the committee's advice to strengthen governance within the sport to prevent similar issues from reoccurring. The IIC submitted its findings to FAM last week, but lacking the authority to carry out a full criminal probe, urged the national body to include the police to enable a comprehensive investigation. And that concludes Nightline this time around. From go-karts to Formula One dreams, let's take a look at how United Kingdom is accelerating efforts at every level of motorsport to close the gender gap and bring more girls into the grid. With that, I'm Nurin Razmin. Thank you for watching and stay safe.